Overcoming procrastination isn't just about time management or productivity hacks. It's about how we treat ourselves when we slip into the habit of delaying tasks. One of the most crucial elements in breaking free from procrastination is practicing self-compassion. Many people who procrastinate struggle with intense self-criticism, which often worsens the cycle. This constant negative self-talk can make procrastination feel like an even bigger burden, reinforcing the feeling of helplessness and self-doubt. Instead of giving in to self-blame, practicing self-compassion can help ease the pressure and make it easier to take action. At its core, self-compassion is the practice of treating yourself with the same kindness, understanding, and care that you would offer a friend. It's about recognizing that making mistakes, experiencing setbacks, and even procrastinating are part of being human. When you procrastinate, instead of berating yourself or feeling guilty, self-compassion invites you to acknowledge that this is a normal behavior and that it doesn't define your worth. When you treat yourself with kindness, you remove the harsh judgment that often comes with procrastination and replace it with a mindset that fosters growth and resilience. One of the main reasons procrastination continues to thrive is the self-critical mindset many people adopt. When someone procrastinates, they might think, "I'm lazy," "I'm not good enough," or "I'll never be able to do this." These thoughts create a negative feedback loop, where feelings of shame and guilt deepen the desire to avoid the task altogether. This, in turn, only strengthens the procrastination habit. However, self-compassion offers a way out. Rather than ruminating on your failures, self-compassion encourages you to recognize your struggles without judgment. It allows you to acknowledge that everyone faces challenges, and the fact that you're human means that you're bound to slip up sometimes. A key part of self-compassion is the practice of mindfulness. Mindfulness involves being present in the moment without judgment. In the context of procrastination, mindfulness helps you become aware of the feelings that arise when you delay a task, such as frustration, guilt, or anxiety. Instead of pushing these emotions away or getting overwhelmed by them, mindfulness helps you recognize them and allow them to exist without letting them control your actions. When you notice that you're procrastinating, rather than getting angry with yourself or feeling defeated, mindfulness allows you to acknowledge the feeling and then make a conscious choice to take action without being weighed down by self-criticism. Another powerful component of self-compassion is self-forgiveness. It's easy to get trapped in a cycle of guilt when you procrastinate, but that guilt only keeps you stuck in a negative emotional state. Self-forgiveness involves letting go of past mistakes and allowing yourself to move forward with a sense of understanding and patience. If you've procrastinated in the past, instead of holding on to the shame or frustration, you forgive yourself and choose to do better in the future. Self-forgiveness allows you to break the cycle of procrastination by removing the emotional baggage that often comes with it. When you let go of the guilt, you make room for positive actions that are in alignment with your goals. Reframing negative self-talk is another essential part of overcoming procrastination with self-compassion. Often, people who procrastinate internalize negative beliefs, such as, "I'm not capable," or "I'll never get this done." These thoughts only reinforce feelings of inadequacy and make it harder to start or finish tasks. Self-compassion helps challenge these thoughts by encouraging you to reframe them in a more positive light. Instead of thinking, "I'll never finish this on time," you can think, "I've faced challenges before, and I can find a way to overcome this one." By shifting your mindset, you can reduce the emotional weight of procrastination and make it easier to take that first step toward completing a task. In addition to reframing, self-compassion involves understanding that you don't need to be perfect. Perfectionism often fuels procrastination because the fear of making mistakes or not meeting expectations can be paralyzing. Self-compassion allows you to embrace imperfection, It reminds you that it's okay to make mistakes and that progress is more important than perfection. By letting go of the unrealistic expectation that you need to be flawless, you reduce the pressure that often leads to procrastination in the first place. Practicing self-compassion can significantly impact your ability to overcome procrastination. When you treat yourself with kindness, you create an internal environment that is more supportive of your growth and success. Instead of seeing procrastination as a flaw or personal failure, self-compassion allows you to view it as an obstacle that can be overcome with patience and understanding. Rather than getting stuck in a cycle of guilt and shame, you empower yourself to take small steps toward progress and build momentum. Over time, this can lead to a reduction in procrastination and an improvement in your overall productivity and well-being. In conclusion, overcoming procrastination through self-compassion requires a shift in how we treat ourselves during moments of delay or avoidance. By embracing kindness, mindfulness, self-forgiveness, and a more realistic view of imperfection, you can reduce the emotional strain caused by procrastination and create a mindset that fosters action and growth. The more we practice self-compassion, the easier it becomes to break free from procrastination and achieve our goals. In conclusion, procrastination is a multifaceted issue influenced by our brain's wiring, emotions, and psychological factors. It's a common struggle that many of us face, but understanding the science behind it gives us the tools to break free from its grip. By managing our time better, regulating our emotions, and using proven strategies, we can overcome procrastination and improve our productivity. If you found this episode helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the English Vibe podcast for more insights and discussions. Thanks for listening, and until next time, stay motivated and keep progressing. Overcoming procrastination requires practical strategies and a shift in mindset. Although it can be a difficult habit to break, there are several effective techniques that can help us stop procrastinating and increase productivity. The key is to approach the problem with a combination of organization, motivation, and structure. One of the most effective methods to combat procrastination is breaking tasks into smaller, more manageable steps. Large tasks can feel overwhelming, especially when they seem complex or time-consuming. This sense of being overwhelmed often leads to avoidance, as we convince ourselves that we can't possibly complete such a big task. However, when we break a large task into smaller, more achievable components, it becomes less intimidating. For example, if you're writing a research paper, you could break it down into smaller tasks such as outlining, writing the introduction, researching specific topics, and drafting individual sections. Each smaller task feels more manageable, making it easier to take the first step and maintain momentum. Setting deadlines for each smaller task can also help create a sense of urgency and accountability. Without clear deadlines, tasks can feel endless, leading to procrastination. By assigning deadlines to each step, you give yourself a clear time frame to complete each component, helping you stay on track and feel a sense of accomplishment as you progress. These mini deadlines serve as external motivators that help you maintain focus and discipline throughout the process. Another powerful strategy to reduce procrastination is creating a structured environment with minimal distractions. In today's digital age, distractions are everywhere, from social media to emails to phone notifications. It's easy to get sidetracked when working on a task, especially if we're working in a cluttered or chaotic environment. To combat this, set up a dedicated workspace that is free from distractions. Put away your phone, turn off unnecessary notifications, and create a focused, quiet environment where you can concentrate. By removing potential distractions, you allow yourself to focus on the task at hand, reducing the likelihood of procrastination. One highly effective technique for staying focused and avoiding burnout is the Pomodoro technique. This method involves working in short, concentrated bursts, typically 25 minutes, followed by a short 5-minute break. After completing 4 Pomodoros, you take a longer break of 15 to 30 minutes. The idea is that working in these short intervals helps you maintain focus and prevent mental fatigue. The breaks give you a chance to recharge, ensuring that you don't become overwhelmed or burned out. The Pomodoro technique works by creating a balance between productivity and rest, making it easier to stay motivated and focused on tasks without feeling mentally exhausted. Additionally, accountability can be a powerful motivator in overcoming procrastination. When we share our goals or tasks with someone else, we create a sense of external responsibility. This can be a friend, family member, colleague, or even a mentor who checks in on your progress. The act of being accountable to someone else adds a layer of motivation, as we don't want to let others down. Setting up regular check-ins or progress reports can help keep you on track and reduce the temptation to procrastinate. Finally, it's important to practice self-compassion when trying to overcome procrastination. Procrastination is a behavior, not an inherent flaw in your character. Instead of being overly critical of yourself when you procrastinate, treat yourself with kindness and understanding. Negative self-talk only increases anxiety and stress, which can contribute to more procrastination. By accepting that procrastination happens and focusing on making progress rather than striving for perfection, you can reduce feelings of guilt and shame, making it easier to take action. Chronic procrastination is not just a minor inconvenience. It can have significant, long-lasting effects on mental health. While occasional delays are a part of life, repeated procrastination can create a pattern of stress, guilt, and shame that negatively impacts our emotional well-being. These emotions can snowball over time, leading to more severe mental health challenges, such as anxiety, depression, and a diminished sense of self-worth. One of the most immediate effects of procrastination on mental health is the stress it creates. When we procrastinate, we're often putting off tasks that are necessary to meet deadlines or fulfill obligations. As time passes, the pressure to complete these tasks intensifies, which can lead to heightened stress levels. The fear of not finishing on time or not doing the task well enough compounds the anxiety associated with procrastination. This stress can also manifest physically, as it triggers the release of stress hormones like cortisol, leading to symptoms like restlessness, headaches, and even sleep disturbances. The guilt that accompanies procrastination is another significant factor contributing to poor mental health. When we delay tasks, we often feel guilty about not meeting our responsibilities, which can make us more self-critical. This guilt can spiral into a cycle of negative thoughts, where we feel inadequate or incapable of completing our tasks. We may also feel ashamed of our behavior, especially if we know that we are capable of doing better, but are still putting things off. Over time, this guilt erodes our sense of self-esteem, leaving us feeling incompetent and disconnected from our goals. As guilt and stress continue to build, anxiety can increase, especially if procrastination is tied to important tasks like work deadlines, exams, or personal commitments. The longer we put off tasks, the more anxious we become about the mounting pressure to complete them. The fear of failure or not meeting expectations can cause us to avoid tasks altogether, exacerbating the problem. This anxiety, in turn, reinforces the procrastination cycle, as avoidance becomes a coping mechanism for managing uncomfortable feelings. Prolonged procrastination can also contribute to depression, particularly if it leads to feelings of helplessness and hopelessness. When procrastination becomes a chronic behavior, it can lead to a sense of being stuck, unable to make progress in life or work. This feeling of stagnation can contribute to depression, especially when tasks pile up and the overwhelm becomes too much to handle. Individuals may feel trapped in the cycle of procrastination, unable to break free, leading to a diminished sense of agency and hopelessness about their ability to change. The vicious cycle of procrastination is hard to break. Negative emotions associated with procrastination can worsen mental health issues, and these emotional struggles can make it even harder to tackle tasks. For example, as stress and anxiety increase, procrastination often intensifies as a way to avoid facing uncomfortable feelings. The longer this cycle continues, the harder it becomes to overcome. It is essential to recognize when procrastination is beginning to affect mental health. Ignoring the emotional toll of procrastination can lead to deeper psychological issues. Acknowledging the problem is the first step toward breaking the cycle. In some cases, professional help, such as therapy or counseling, can provide the support needed to manage emotions and develop strategies to reduce procrastination. Therapeutic approaches like cognitive behavioral therapy can help individuals reframe negative thought patterns and create healthier ways to deal with stress, anxiety, and procrastination. Additionally, self-care practices such as exercise, mindfulness, and relaxation techniques can help alleviate the emotional strain caused by procrastination. These practices reduce stress and improve mental well-being, making it easier to tackle tasks without delay. By addressing the root causes of procrastination and implementing strategies to reduce it, we can protect our mental health and improve our overall well-being. Procrastination is often deeply linked to emotional regulation, which refers to our ability to manage and respond to emotions in a healthy way. Many times, procrastination is not simply about laziness or poor time management. It is an emotional response to difficult, uncomfortable, or overwhelming feelings. When we face a task that brings up emotions such as anxiety, fear, frustration, self-doubt, or even boredom, it becomes easy to avoid it by procrastinating. The act of procrastination in this case is a coping mechanism to escape the negative emotions we associate with the task. For instance, when we are about to start a difficult project, we may feel anxious about how well we will perform, and this anxiety can cause us to delay starting. We might procrastinate because the task feels too overwhelming, or we fear we might fail. Alternatively, we might put off a task because it brings up feelings of frustration or self-doubt, like the fear that we aren't good enough or that we'll make mistakes. Instead of facing these uncomfortable feelings, our natural tendency is to escape them by engaging in easier, more pleasant activities, such as watching TV, scrolling through social media, or doing household chores. These distractions provide temporary relief from the difficult emotions, but they don't help us address the underlying task at hand. Procrastination becomes a form of emotional avoidance. Rather than confronting and managing our emotions, we choose to delay the task, which only reinforces our negative feelings. The more we procrastinate, the more these emotions, like fear, frustration, or anxiety, grow, creating a cycle that can be hard to break. For example, the longer we avoid an important task, the more anxious we may become. And the more we avoid it, the greater our anxiety becomes. This cycle continues, leaving us feeling stuck and unable to move forward. Building emotional resilience is essential for overcoming procrastination. This means learning how to handle uncomfortable emotions in a way that allows us to face tasks head-on rather than avoiding them. One of the most effective ways to improve emotional regulation is through mindfulness. Mindfulness involves being aware of our emotions in the present moment without judgment. By practicing mindfulness, we can begin to recognize the emotions that arise when we think about a task, whether it's anxiety, frustration, or boredom, and accept them without letting them control our actions. Mindfulness helps us acknowledge these emotions without letting them prevent us from taking action. Another powerful tool in emotional regulation is cognitive behavioral strategies. These techniques help us challenge the negative thought patterns that often accompany procrastination. For instance, if we are afraid that we won't do a task perfectly, cognitive behavioral therapy can help us reframe those thoughts, encouraging us to focus on progress rather than perfection. By changing the way we think about tasks and our ability to complete them, we can reduce the emotional roadblocks that lead to procrastination. Self-compassion is another essential component in overcoming procrastination. Often, procrastinators are highly self-critical, which only exacerbates their emotional struggles. Instead of berating ourselves for procrastinating, practicing self-compassion involves being kind and understanding toward ourselves. This can help reduce the shame and guilt that often accompany procrastination, which in turn reduces the emotional charge that leads to avoidance. When we treat ourselves with compassion, we are more likely to approach tasks with a positive, open mindset, which reduces the temptation to procrastinate. Developing better emotional regulation skills is crucial in overcoming procrastination. By learning to manage negative emotions, such as anxiety, frustration, and self-doubt, we can approach tasks more calmly and with greater focus. Using techniques like mindfulness, cognitive behavioral strategies, and self-compassion, we can break the cycle of emotional avoidance that drives procrastination. With practice, these tools can help us build the emotional resilience needed to take action, even in the face of difficult emotions. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that plays a critical role in our brain's reward system. It is often referred to as the feel-good chemical because it is released when we experience pleasure, satisfaction, or reward. Dopamine is involved in processes related to motivation, attention, and learning. It drives our desire to seek out activities that make us feel good and reinforces behaviors that provide instant gratification. The role dopamine plays in procrastination lies in the fact that our brains are wired to seek out immediate rewards, making tasks that require sustained effort and delayed rewards much less appealing. When we engage in activities that give us immediate satisfaction, such as checking social media, eating a sugary snack, or watching TV, our brains release dopamine, providing us with a sense of pleasure and reward. This immediate gratification encourages us to repeat those behaviors. The more we engage in these activities, the more dopamine our brains release, which reinforces our desire to continue pursuing them. On the flip side, tasks that require more effort and don't offer instant rewards, like writing a paper, completing a work project, or studying for an exam, don't trigger the same dopamine response. These tasks feel less enjoyable and therefore less motivating. Because tasks that require delayed rewards don't immediately stimulate the dopamine system, we may struggle to find the motivation to start or finish them. This is especially true when we have other tasks that offer instant gratification available to us, like browsing the internet or engaging in a mindless activity that provides a quick dopamine hit. As a result, the less pleasurable tasks are often put off and procrastinated. Our brains naturally gravitate toward behaviors that bring us immediate pleasure, and this is a powerful reason why procrastination occurs. One of the key ways to overcome procrastination and increase motivation is to find ways to stimulate dopamine while working on tasks that require effort and time. One effective method for this is to introduce small rewards along the way. For example, you could give yourself a short break or treat yourself to something enjoyable once you complete a specific portion of a larger task. By setting up a reward system that triggers dopamine release, you can make the process of completing tasks more satisfying and more motivating. For instance, if you're working on a project, break the task into smaller chunks and reward yourself with something pleasurable, such as a snack, a quick walk, or watching a short video, after completing each step. This strategy provides you with frequent dopamine boosts throughout the process helping you to stay motivated and focused. Over time, this method can help rewire your brain's response to long-term tasks, making them feel more rewarding and less like a chore. Additionally, the concept of gamification can be helpful in tackling procrastination. By turning tasks into small challenges or creating a point system for accomplishments, you can trick your brain into thinking that the process is more enjoyable. For example, you might track your progress in a way that gives you a sense of accomplishment and rewards you for meeting milestones. By using these strategies, you can harness the power of dopamine to boost your motivation and reduce procrastination. Ultimately, understanding the role of dopamine in procrastination helps us realize that we need to align the process of working on a task with feelings of reward and pleasure. This shift in mindset can be a powerful tool in combating procrastination and improving our overall productivity. Decision fatigue is a psychological phenomenon that occurs when the quality of our decisions deteriorates after making a large number of choices throughout the day. It's a form of mental exhaustion that affects our ability to make rational, effective decisions. Every decision we make, no matter how small, requires a certain amount of cognitive energy. Over the course of a day, as we accumulate more and more decisions, whether it's what to eat for lunch, how to respond to emails, or what tasks to prioritize, our brain becomes fatigued, and the mental energy required to make good decisions starts to deplete. In the context of procrastination, decision fatigue can be a significant contributor. When we are faced with a task that requires a series of decisions, such as how to start, what resources to use, or how to structure the task, we might experience a mental block. This happens because by the time we get to the task, we've already expended a lot of cognitive energy on previous decisions, and our brains are simply too tired to engage. Instead of making a choice to start the task, we procrastinate by avoiding the decision altogether, either by putting it off until later or distracting ourselves with easier, less demanding activities. For example, consider the situation of working on a project that requires making a number of decisions about how to structure it or what approach to take. If we've already made many decisions throughout the day, choosing what to wear, deciding what tasks to prioritize, and making countless small choices, it's easy to feel overwhelmed when it comes time to make decisions about the project. The mental fatigue accumulates, and rather than face more decisions, we avoid them. This leads to procrastination because we don't feel like making the effort to move forward. Reducing decision fatigue can significantly help in combating procrastination. One effective way to reduce decision fatigue is by simplifying the decisions we have to make throughout the day. For instance, we can create a set routine for daily tasks, such as meal planning or dressing. The fewer choices we need to make throughout the day, the more cognitive energy we have for important tasks. Having a routine or set systems in place can prevent our brains from becoming overwhelmed by decisions. Another strategy is to automate decisions whenever possible. For instance, choosing a work schedule ahead of time, using task management tools, or setting up automatic email responses can save time and mental energy. By reducing the number of choices we need to make, we can preserve mental resources for the tasks that really matter, like important projects or decisions that require our full attention. Another way to combat decision fatigue is to prioritize tasks in advance. Instead of waiting until you're already mentally exhausted to decide what to do, take a moment at the start of your day to identify the most important tasks. Make those tasks a priority and tackle them first when you still have mental energy. By doing this, you can avoid the mental exhaustion that comes from trying to make important decisions later in the day when your brain is already fatigued. Lastly, it's important to take breaks throughout the day. Giving our brains time to rest can help reset our decision-making ability and prevent the accumulation of fatigue. Regular breaks can make us more productive and less likely to procrastinate. Procrastination is often the result of poor time management. When we don't plan our time effectively, tasks can feel overwhelming, making it more tempting to delay them. The sheer volume of work or the complexity of a task can cause us to feel like we're drowning in an endless sea of responsibilities. This feeling of being overwhelmed leads to procrastination because we avoid confronting the task head-on. Instead of breaking down a task into manageable parts, we put it off, and the more we delay, the bigger the task seems. One of the primary reasons we struggle with procrastination in the context of time management is that we tend to underestimate the time it will take to complete tasks. This phenomenon is known as the planning fallacy. It's a cognitive bias where we believe we can accomplish more than we actually can in a given time frame. For example, we may think we can write a report in 2 hours, but when we sit down to start, we realize it will take much longer due to unexpected challenges or the need for additional research. Because we didn't account for these obstacles, we might end up putting off the task altogether, convinced that we're running out of time. Without effective time management, we also fail to break down large, overwhelming tasks into smaller, more manageable steps. The bigger a project seems, the more daunting it becomes, and this can be paralyzing. For instance, when faced with writing a 20-page research paper, the idea of sitting down to tackle such a large task can lead to avoidance. But if we break it down into smaller tasks, researching for an hour, drafting an outline, writing a few pages per day, it suddenly feels much more achievable. Procrastination often happens when we don't take the time to plan these smaller steps, causing the entire project to feel like an insurmountable mountain. Time management is one of the most effective strategies for overcoming procrastination. By learning how to organize our time, we can reduce feelings of overwhelm and create a clear path forward. Effective time management begins with setting clear goals. When we know exactly what we need to achieve, it's easier to stay focused and motivated. It's crucial to set both long-term and short-term goals, ensuring that we have a sense of purpose and direction at all stages of the task. Next, creating realistic timelines is vital. Setting deadlines that are achievable, rather than overly ambitious, allows us to avoid the sense of pressure that leads to procrastination. When we have a realistic understanding of how much time we need, we're less likely to avoid the task due to fear of running out of time. This can also help us stay on track and avoid the panic that comes with approaching deadlines. Breaking tasks down into smaller, manageable steps is another important technique for effective time management. The act of segmenting a larger task into bite-sized portions helps us stay focused on the next step without feeling overwhelmed by the bigger picture. For instance, if we're tasked with preparing for an important presentation, rather than thinking about it as one big event, we can break it down into smaller actions: gathering materials, creating slides, practicing delivery, etc. This makes the task feel more doable and less likely to trigger procrastination. Another important element of time management is understanding our productive hours. We all have times during the day when we are most focused and energized. For some, it might be in the morning, while for others, it could be in the afternoon or evening. By scheduling our most important and challenging tasks during these productive windows, we can maximize our efficiency and reduce the likelihood of procrastination. Conversely, tasks that require less energy or focus can be scheduled during periods of lower productivity. Finally, regularly reviewing progress is essential in time management. When we track our progress, we gain a sense of accomplishment and motivation, which can reduce procrastination. Regular check-ins also allow us to adjust our timelines or strategies if necessary, ensuring that we stay on course. Effective time management is not about being busy all the time, but about being strategic with our time. It's about creating a balanced approach where we prioritize important tasks, break them down into manageable steps, and stay organized throughout the process. By doing so, we can significantly reduce procrastination and make progress on even the most daunting projects. Perfectionism and procrastination often go hand in hand, creating a cyclical relationship that can be difficult to break. Perfectionists set extremely high standards for themselves and feel a constant pressure to perform flawlessly in everything they do. While striving for excellence can be a positive trait, when taken to the extreme, it can fuel procrastination. Perfectionism becomes problematic when the fear of imperfection becomes so overwhelming that it prevents individuals from even starting a task. For a perfectionist, the idea of not meeting their standards, whether those standards are set by themselves or by others, can feel like a form of failure. This fear of failure can be paralyzing. Rather than risk producing something that falls short of perfection, they may avoid beginning the task altogether. The longer the task is delayed, the more daunting it becomes, and the cycle of procrastination continues. For example, a perfectionist might delay starting a writing assignment because they fear that their writing won't be good enough, even though they know the task is doable. Similarly, they might procrastinate on a project at work because they worry it won't meet the high expectations of their boss or peers. The perfectionist's desire to avoid imperfection often results in a delay of completion, and in turn, the task becomes more overwhelming as time passes. The connection between procrastination and perfectionism can be explained by the emotion regulation involved in both behaviors. Procrastination often serves as an emotional avoidance mechanism. In other words, it allows individuals to avoid the negative emotions associated with the possibility of failure, inadequacy, or imperfection. Rather than confront these emotions head-on, perfectionists choose to delay the task. However, this avoidance only intensifies the emotions, as the fear of imperfection becomes more ingrained. As the deadline approaches, the procrastinator is left with even more pressure and anxiety, which makes it harder to take action. Moreover, perfectionism often leads to a lack of productivity rather than the high levels of productivity that one might expect. Paradoxically, by aiming for perfection, individuals often find themselves stuck in a cycle of constant self-criticism, which prevents them from completing any work at all. Instead of making progress, they ruminate on the perceived flaws in their work and delay taking action. This not only reduces overall productivity, but also fosters negative feelings of inadequacy and frustration. The idea of all-or-nothing thinking is another hallmark of the perfectionism-procrastination connection. Perfectionists often believe that if they can't do something perfectly, it's not worth doing at all. This black-and-white thinking creates an emotional barrier to starting tasks. In their minds, if the task cannot be done flawlessly from the beginning, it's better to avoid it until they can get it right. This mindset leads to chronic procrastination, as perfectionists are constantly waiting for the perfect moment to begin a task, which never arrives. To break the connection between perfectionism and procrastination, it's important to challenge the underlying beliefs that drive these behaviors. One useful strategy is to embrace the idea of progress over perfection. By focusing on incremental progress rather than aiming for flawless execution, individuals can begin to reduce the pressure they place on themselves. Additionally, learning to accept imperfection and viewing mistakes as opportunities for growth can help ease the fear of failure. Understanding the cycle between procrastination and perfectionism allows us to develop healthier coping strategies. It's about recognizing that perfection is unattainable and that progress, not perfection, is the key to success. By embracing imperfection and taking action, even when it's not perfect, we can break free from the grip of both procrastination and perfectionism. Stress and anxiety are two of the most powerful emotional states that contribute to procrastination. When faced with a task, especially one that feels overwhelming or important, many people experience a surge of stress or anxiety. This reaction is not only emotional but physiological as well. When we are stressed or anxious, our bodies release cortisol, a hormone that is part of our body's natural fight or flight response. The release of cortisol can cause a range of physical symptoms, such as increased heart rate, shallow breathing, and muscle tension, that are designed to help us respond to threats. However, when faced with a non-life-threatening task, like an essay or a work deadline, this stress response is counterproductive. Rather than focusing our energy on completing the task at hand, our bodies interpret the stress as a signal to avoid the source of discomfort. The fight or flight response triggers an impulse to escape the stressor, and in many cases, that means avoiding the task entirely. This avoidance in turn leads to even more stress and anxiety. The longer we put off the task, the more it grows in our minds, and the more daunting it becomes. This creates a negative feedback loop. Avoiding the task relieves stress momentarily, but as time passes, the anticipation of the task causes even more stress and anxiety. This cycle is often compounded by the fear of failure or fear of making mistakes, which is particularly common in high-pressure environments. When the task at hand is linked to personal, academic, or professional goals, the stakes can feel incredibly high. People begin to feel like their entire sense of self-worth is tied to the outcome of this task. The fear of not doing well can be so overwhelming that it causes individuals to delay starting or finishing the task. Rather than taking action, they may engage in distractions or focus on less important activities that temporarily take their minds off the stress. The relief is short-lived, though, because the deadline looms larger and the anxiety only builds. As the deadline approaches, the stress tends to intensify. Procrastinators often find themselves in a situation where they're overwhelmed by the growing weight of the task and the mounting deadline. This is when the anxiety reaches a peak, sometimes resulting in last-minute panic. The closer we get to the deadline, the more we realize how much we still need to do, which can increase feelings of inadequacy and frustration. The short burst of energy or focus that might come in these final moments can often lead to rushed, subpar work, further reinforcing the negative cycle. This relationship between procrastination and stress-anxiety is particularly evident in academic settings, work environments, and creative pursuits. In high-pressure environments, procrastinators are often motivated by the fear of making mistakes. For example, a student might delay starting an essay because the thought of failing to meet academic standards is too anxiety-inducing. Similarly, a professional might avoid an important presentation or report because they fear it will not be well received. Interestingly, procrastination can become a coping mechanism for managing these intense emotions, but it's a short-term solution that only worsens the situation in the long run. The more we procrastinate, the more we teach ourselves to avoid uncomfortable tasks, and the more we associate those tasks with stress and anxiety. Over time, the very act of putting things off becomes a conditioned response to stress, and procrastination becomes a learned habit. To break this cycle, it's essential to address the underlying emotional triggers that contribute to procrastination. Recognizing that stress and anxiety are driving behaviors allows us to take proactive steps to manage those feelings, such as mindfulness, time management techniques, and stress reduction strategies. Instead of avoiding the task altogether, we can begin to approach it with a healthier mindset, one that separates the task from feelings of overwhelm. Another significant psychological factor behind procrastination is the powerful drive for instant gratification. We live in an age where everything seems to be available at the push of a button. Instant access to entertainment, social media, food delivery, and more. This immediate availability of rewards taps into a fundamental part of human nature, the desire for instant pleasure. This desire for short-term enjoyment often competes with the longer-term rewards associated with tasks like studying for an exam, working on a project, or completing a tedious chore. This impulse for instant gratification is not a new development. It's something deeply rooted in our evolutionary history. In prehistoric times, human survival depended on the ability to seize immediate rewards. When food was available, it was crucial to consume it right away because there was no guarantee that more food would come soon. Our brains were wired to prioritize immediate rewards as a survival mechanism, an instinct to seek out and capitalize on opportunities in the moment. In this context, seeking immediate rewards was adaptive. It ensured that we did not let valuable resources slip away. However, in the modern world, the stakes are different. While our basic survival needs may no longer hinge on quick rewards like food or shelter, the same brain circuits that drive us toward instant gratification still play a major role in our decision-making. These circuits often overpower the logical part of our brain that understands the long-term value of delayed rewards. This is why, even when we know that working on a task or goal will eventually bring greater satisfaction, we often find ourselves succumbing to the lure of more immediate pleasures. Watching a TV show, scrolling through social media, or browsing the internet can feel more appealing in the short term than tackling a complex or boring task. The ability to delay gratification, putting off short-term pleasures for long-term benefits, is a crucial skill for overcoming procrastination. However, this ability doesn't come naturally to everyone, and in many cases, the desire for instant gratification can be overwhelming. This conflict between short-term pleasure and long-term goals is a central challenge in overcoming procrastination. Moreover, this desire for instant gratification is often amplified by the digital age. Social media platforms, video games, and streaming services are all designed to provide immediate, dopamine-triggering rewards. Every time we receive a notification, get a like, or finish an episode of a show, our brains release dopamine, a neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward. This creates a cycle of positive reinforcement, where our brains begin to crave these instant rewards more and more. The result? We find it increasingly difficult to focus on tasks that require patience, effort, and delayed rewards. In contrast, tasks that involve long-term planning and effort, such as studying for a test, writing a report, or working on a creative project, don't provide the same instant gratification. These tasks require sustained focus, and the rewards are not immediately apparent. It's easy to see why such tasks are often put off in favor of activities that give us quicker, more tangible rewards. The constant pursuit of instant gratification often leads to decision fatigue. When faced with numerous choices throughout the day, from checking social media to choosing between work and leisure, the brain becomes overwhelmed. This can further weaken our ability to make decisions that align with long-term goals, making procrastination more likely. The more our brains seek out instant rewards, the harder it becomes to resist distractions, creating a cycle that feeds into procrastination. Ultimately, overcoming procrastination driven by instant gratification requires self-awareness and discipline. Recognizing the lure of immediate rewards for what they are, temporary distractions, can help us prioritize tasks that contribute to our long-term happiness and success. It's about shifting our focus from what feels good in the moment to what will bring us greater fulfillment in the future. Procrastination is not just a behavioral issue, it's deeply psychological, deeply rooted in our emotions, self-perceptions, and fears. While the surface-level reasons for procrastination may seem like simple distractions or laziness, the underlying psychological factors that drive this habit are far more complex. At its core, procrastination is a mechanism for avoiding discomfort. But what are we trying to avoid, exactly? One of the most significant psychological drivers behind procrastination is fear, specifically the fear of failure. The fear of not meeting our own standards or the expectations of others often paralyzes us, making it difficult to even begin a task. The very thought of not performing well or of making mistakes can trigger intense anxiety, leading us to delay the task. This fear can be so powerful that it becomes easier to avoid the task altogether than face the potential for failure. This avoidance is a temporary relief from the stress of facing something that feels too big or too risky. However, this avoidance only compounds the anxiety as the task looms over us, growing more intimidating the longer we procrastinate. Alongside the fear of failure is the fear of imperfection. In our society, there's often an immense pressure to perform perfectly, to meet the highest standards in everything we do. For perfectionists, the prospect of doing something imperfectly can seem unbearable. Rather than risk producing something that's less than perfect, they often delay starting the task at all. This avoidance is a way to protect their self-image, which is closely tied to being seen as flawless or highly competent. The thought of making mistakes or being judged for subpar work is so distressing that procrastination becomes a defense mechanism to prevent any kind of perceived failure. In addition to these fears, perfectionism itself plays a major role in procrastination. Perfectionists often delay tasks because they set unrealistically high expectations for themselves. They may fear that their work will never measure up to their ideal, so they keep postponing the task until they feel ready to give it their perfect effort. But in the process of waiting for the right time, the task is never completed. Procrastination, in this sense, is an attempt to avoid the discomfort of not achieving perfection. Unfortunately, this strategy often leads to a cycle of continuous delay and self-criticism. Another significant psychological factor contributing to procrastination is self-sabotage. This is particularly common in individuals who feel undeserving of success, or who fear that their accomplishments will expose their perceived inadequacies. They might delay tasks because, on some unconscious level, they don't want to succeed. This might sound strange, but for some, the idea of being successful brings a host of negative emotions: fear of higher expectations, pressure, or even guilt. They may feel that they don't deserve the rewards that come with completing a task or achieving a goal, leading to procrastination as a way to prevent success. These psychological triggers create a negative feedback loop. We delay the task because of fear, perfectionism, or self-doubt, which causes anxiety and guilt to build up. The longer we procrastinate, the more we fear starting the task, and the more we worry about not being able to do it perfectly. In turn, this makes it even harder to begin, creating a vicious cycle that becomes increasingly difficult to break. Breaking this cycle involves understanding these psychological triggers and learning how to confront the underlying fears rather than allowing them to dictate our behavior. Understanding procrastination as a response to fear and self-doubt helps us reframe it not as laziness, but as an emotional reaction to stress. This awareness allows us to take steps toward managing these feelings and addressing the root causes of procrastination. Overcoming procrastination, then, is not simply about forcing ourselves to work harder, but about developing a healthier mindset that helps us manage our fears and perfectionistic tendencies. The science behind procrastination involves a fascinating interplay between different parts of our brain. Research has shown that procrastination is not just about poor time management. It's closely tied to how our brain processes decisions, emotions, and rewards. Two key areas of the brain are particularly involved in procrastination: the prefrontal cortex and the limbic system. The prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain responsible for higher-level cognitive functions such as logical thinking, planning, self-control, and decision-making. It allows us to set goals, make plans, and regulate our impulses. In theory, this part of the brain is designed to help us think about the future, prioritize tasks, and stay focused on our long-term objectives. When faced with a task, the prefrontal cortex is the one that encourages us to begin working on it, helping us to organize our thoughts and take action. On the other hand, the limbic system is a more primitive part of the brain that governs our emotions, desires, and survival instincts. It's the part of the brain that processes pleasure, fear, and anxiety. The limbic system is driven by the need for instant gratification. It focuses on immediate rewards, such as the pleasure we get from scrolling through social media, watching TV, or eating a snack, rather than long-term goals or responsibilities. This part of the brain is also responsible for emotions like anxiety, fear, and stress, which can arise when we face tasks that feel overwhelming or unpleasant. When we are confronted with a task, these two parts of the brain are often in conflict. The prefrontal cortex may urge us to start the task, plan our approach, and stay disciplined. But the limbic system, being more impulsive, may lead us to avoid the task in favor of something more enjoyable or less anxiety-inducing. This clash between logic and emotion is one of the primary reasons we procrastinate. The prefrontal cortex knows the long-term benefits of completing the task, but the limbic system is more concerned with avoiding the discomfort associated with it. What's particularly interesting is that the limbic system often wins out in situations of procrastination. While the prefrontal cortex is trying to engage in logical thinking, the limbic system triggers a desire for immediate rewards. This desire for short-term pleasure can easily overwhelm the rational thinking of the prefrontal cortex. For instance, when faced with a long assignment or project, the discomfort of starting it, or the anxiety surrounding it, can trigger the limbic system's avoidance response. The immediate gratification of checking our phone or grabbing a snack becomes more appealing than the effort required to begin or complete the task. Another factor that contributes to procrastination is a concept known as temporal discounting, which is essentially our tendency to favor immediate rewards over delayed ones. The prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for planning and considering future consequences, is often overruled by the limbic system's focus on present gratification. This is why tasks that are difficult or have a long timeline feel less urgent, even when we know they are important. The more distant the reward, the less motivating it seems in the present moment. Interestingly, this clash between the prefrontal cortex and the limbic system can be altered through practices that enhance self-control and discipline. For instance, mindfulness and cognitive behavioral techniques can help strengthen the prefrontal cortex's influence, allowing us to override the impulsive desires of the limbic system. When we train ourselves to focus on long-term goals and minimize the allure of immediate rewards, we can reduce procrastination. In addition, the brain's reward system also plays a role in procrastination. When we engage in activities that provide instant gratification, such as checking our phone or eating something enjoyable, our brain releases dopamine, a neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward. The more dopamine we receive, the more likely we are to engage in these behaviors, reinforcing the cycle of procrastination. This release of dopamine creates a reinforcing feedback loop, where our brain becomes conditioned to seek out quick, pleasurable activities rather than working on tasks that require sustained effort. Understanding the role of the brain in procrastination can offer insight into why it's so difficult to break free from this habit. It's not just a matter of willpower or motivation. It's deeply rooted in how our brain processes emotions, rewards, and long-term goals. Recognizing this neurological basis for procrastination allows us to approach it with more compassion and develop strategies to work with our brain's natural tendencies rather than fight against them. Welcome to another episode of my channel. Today, we'll be diving into a topic that we all struggle with from time to time: procrastination. It's something we've all experienced, and yet we often find ourselves caught in the cycle of delay and distraction. But why do we procrastinate? What's happening in our brains when we put things off, and how can we overcome it? Join us as we explore the science behind procrastination, the psychology that drives it, and practical tips for breaking the habit. Procrastination is a behavior that nearly everyone has experienced at some point in their lives. It refers to the act of postponing tasks, actions, or decisions, even when we are aware that this delay could result in negative consequences. In simple terms, procrastination is the tendency to put off doing something that needs to be done, despite knowing that it could lead to stress, pressure, or even failure. However, procrastination is not merely about being lazy. It's far more intricate than that. At its core, procrastination is a complex phenomenon that involves a mix of emotions, habits, and sometimes deeper psychological factors like fear of failure, self-doubt, or perfectionism. When we procrastinate, we often do so because we are trying to avoid some form of discomfort. The discomfort can come in various forms: the anxiety of starting a daunting project, the stress associated with meeting an impending deadline, or the uncertainty of the outcome. In other words, procrastination can be seen as a defense mechanism against negative emotions. We choose to delay the task because it temporarily shields us from the emotions tied to it. For example, the mere thought of writing a paper or studying for an exam may invoke feelings of anxiety, self-doubt, or even boredom. These emotions can be so overwhelming that our brains choose to avoid them by engaging in distractions, like checking social media, watching a TV show, or simply taking a nap. However, what often happens next is a paradox. The more we delay the task, the more these negative emotions can intensify. The stress associated with the task builds up as the deadline draws closer, and the avoidance becomes even more pronounced. This creates a vicious cycle. We procrastinate because we're trying to avoid discomfort, but delaying the task only amplifies our stress and anxiety. As the deadline looms, the anxiety becomes even more overwhelming, making it even harder to get started. It's a cycle that can be hard to break, but understanding this basic dynamic is crucial in combating procrastination. Procrastination is not simply an issue of time management. It's an emotional issue. The heart of procrastination lies in our desire to avoid feelings of discomfort. We procrastinate because we want to escape from anxiety, fear, or uncertainty. Ironically, procrastination often leads to more of the same. The avoidance creates further stress and guilt, leading to an even stronger desire to avoid the task in the future. This cycle can perpetuate itself, with procrastinators feeling stuck in a loop of delay, frustration, and self-blame. So why do we continue to procrastinate even when we know it's counterproductive? The answer lies in the way our brains are wired. Our brains are naturally geared to prioritize immediate rewards and instant gratification over long-term goals. This preference for short-term pleasure, even if it comes at the expense of long-term productivity, is a significant factor in procrastination. Instead of tackling a difficult task that may take hours of concentration, we are tempted to engage in easier, more immediately gratifying activities, such as browsing the internet, checking our phones, or snacking. Another reason we procrastinate is due to the fear of failure. When faced with a challenging task, we may hesitate to start it because we fear that we won't do a good job. This fear of failure, combined with the desire to avoid discomfort, can cause us to avoid the task altogether. The longer we put it off, the more daunting it becomes, and the cycle of procrastination continues. It's also worth mentioning that procrastination is sometimes rooted in perfectionism. People who are perfectionists often set unrealistically high standards for themselves. They may delay starting a task because they worry that the end result will not meet their own lofty expectations. This can lead to a fear of imperfection, which causes them to avoid completing the task in the first place. Instead of taking small steps toward completion, they procrastinate, hoping that when they finally do work on the task, everything will align perfectly. Understanding procrastination as a complex, emotional response to discomfort rather than a simple flaw of character is crucial. It's not that we are inherently lazy or unmotivated, rather, we are responding to our internal emotional landscape. When we reframe procrastination as an emotional coping mechanism, we can begin to understand the underlying causes and work toward addressing them. Once we recognize the triggers that lead to procrastination, we can develop healthier strategies to manage our emotions and take action,